go down in the DM. It go down, it go down. It goes down in the DM. It go down in the DM. It go down, tell it.
How's it going, Rams? And to another Zoom version of Down in the DMs. My name is Ethan Bird, and I'm joined by Rachel Hallam and Ellison Hubbard, just like last time. And we've got a big hoops version going on for tonight. And Rachel posed this question to us yesterday, and it's a pretty good one. So the Celtics are pretty hot right now. Are they now a threat in the East?
I think they definitely are. I mean, we've talked about it a couple times. Ethan and I have, especially in our down in the DMs during the show. We've talked about who we think could win the East, and neither of us picked the Celtics. Neither of us had even the slightest idea that they would be making this hot streak that they're on now with an 8-0 run still going. And, I mean, Jason Tatum dropped 44 points the other night against Steph Curry, and Steph Curry gave him props, and he gave him so much respect for it. I think this team is definitely one that needs to be watched out.
Yeah. I would say, we're in the NBA, and, in any sport, anything can happen. And, like we were talking about March Madness last time when I down in the DMs, anything can happen. But, they're sitting at 5, and unless they're going to continue to keep this roll, I don't see them being a huge factor in the playoffs or to even the Nets, the super team that is now the Nets. So, the win streak, there's going to be ups and downs within this season, especially, it's still COVID and players are taking their time off, doing their player deloads. So, right now, I don't know if these wins are really anything significant until the playoffs come. So I just don't see them being such a big team to be worried about on the East side.
So not as much of a threat as they're making themselves seem like they are right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely don't see that.
Kind of like the rattle on a rattlesnake. They got to bite first.
Yeah.
So I'm a little in the middle on this one. It's all been Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who have been averaging 34.2 and 28.4 over their last 5 games. And it's no question that the Celtics have been rather disappointing all season. Like, this is not the type of season that any Celtics fan or even any Celtics player wanted to have. And it's a lot of that is just underperformance from their stars. But if Jason Tatum continues to perform like this, Jason Tatum is a top 5 player in the East. Yeah. He is well respected and he can score and he's well known. However, like you said, consistency is key, and playoff prowess is key. I do think that they have made themselves a bit more of a threat, and there wasn't really any question whether or not they would make the playoffs. And now that they're above 500, not under like they were for a minute, I think about a 5 or 4 seed will probably be where they hover around until the end of the season, which would put them against probably Atlanta in that first round of the playoffs. And Atlanta could give them a run for their money. I mean, you're the Atlanta guy. How do you feel about that?
And I'm actually surprised to be 4th in the East. Atlanta's making a run for it. I don't know if they're going to make it far. You need multiple guys on a team to be like stars and to be winners. Trae Young can't do it all. And like for the Celtics, really you're hearing about Tatum, and Brown's there and Kemba's there, and then you have other guys, but Tatum can't do it all. And if you're going to play the Nets or anybody else consistently, you can't just be the only one balling out. So it's got to be everybody's going to come along and want to ball out. Somebody else is going to make their name, and somebody's got to be on ESPN and other sports talks more than Tatum is, and anybody else on the other teams like Trae Young or somebody. So.
Yeah, but okay, let's bring it back to the Nets because you keep bringing them up, and I know that they're this power team that is currently trying to overrun the NBA. I mean, they have a lot of stars on their team, and we can get into all the names and all the lists that go on with all the players that are on that team. But go back to how they lost to the Lakers, who lost AD, who lost Kuzma, and who lost LeBron before they played against the Brooklyn Nets. And they lost to them 126-101, I think it was. And I mean, if you have such a powerful team that is constantly being talked about on ESPN, and they lose to a team who's missing all of their star players at the time, I mean, that's a huge difference. And yeah, the Nets are only second in the Eastern Conference right now, but the Hawks and the Celtics are right behind them, and they're creeping their way up.
And you're right. Yeah, the Nets should never really lose a game. You have like the Warriors, but on the East side, But again, it's like there's nights where you're not going to win every game. There's nights where you're going to slip up. So I give them the benefit of doubt of that game, and they're still showing us right now that they're still a top team, and that's why the playoffs are the playoffs. You're going to play a whole different ball game than you are right now in the regular season. So. And maybe you might be right. The Celtics might come in there and show everybody, hey, you've been sleeping on us. We've been fifth in the East, but we're not going to be the fifth in the East when we come to playoff time. But right now, for what I've seen, I just don't see the Celtics being a scare factor when the playoffs hit.
Okay. I mean, now that we're talking about names, let's bring up some more names, because names are always thrown around in this conversation. To our next topic of discussion, NBA MVP. There's been several names in this conversation. Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, James Harden thinks he deserves it. LeBron James has never not talked about it. So I would like to pick your brains, because this is a very passionate subject. We'll go to who's your MVP, each of you.
Man. So I was coming in here thinking Steph Curry. He's scoring absolutely lights out almost every game. He is doing what he was doing years before. He's bringing it back. But I had to sit and think about it. Luka Doncic has really made a name for himself. I think if he continues to be better and continues to show that he can lead a team, he can be the MVP. We could talk about KD.
This year right now, he's the MVP.
I think so.
Luka Doncic. That's your pick.
Yes. Who do you believe?
Okay, no, continue. I want to hear a little bit more.
No, that's how I feel
Come
right
on,
now.
let him speak.
No, I mean, I would like to hear you guys, if you're thinking, because I think Luka Doncic is a really great player, and he's been showing it for the past few years, especially in that last season of the championships and things like that, the playoffs, excuse me. He was showing that he is a capable leader. He can be, a big name in the years to come. And I think you should give it to somebody who's showing improvement and showing that, wow, he can win big games. He can do it all, rather than just give it to, LeBron, KD every year. I like to see something different, somebody who's actually showing that they can do something, because you would say he's a one-man show basically for the Mavericks. So that's what I would want to see, is he's a one-man show and he's doing it all for the Mavs.
All right, well, I'm going to kind of go off of what you're saying a little bit on the side that you need to do it, give it to somebody who deserves it and who has not had it before. I also am going to regret saying this, because I know that I'm going to be getting bashed on for saying this, and I know somebody's going to really love the fact that I'm saying who I want as the MVP, but for me, I easily think it's Nikola Jokic this year, and I can see Ethan trying to hide a smile as hard as he can behind that microphone, and I didn't want to say it, but I mean, look at his stats: 26 points a game, 10 rebounds. I mean, he's averaging amazing, and if he could win this MVP, he'd already be the first Denver Nugget to do it, and he would be the first center since Shaq won it back in 2000. So, I mean, this would be a huge win for him, and I think that he definitely deserves it. He's been proving himself for the past couple of years anyway already, so I think he is a very big front runner for this right now.
Well, Ellison, I love Luka. Don't get me wrong. Luka's been a very important player to the game and has helped develop the game in the short time that he's been in the NBA. Yeah. But you know who fits all of the criteria that you laid out but is doing it better than Luka Doncic? His Serbian brother, Nikola Jokic, who was the runaway MVP. It shouldn't even be a conversation about MVP. It's runaway MVP. It's not a close MVP. It's a runaway MVP. There's no center who has played basketball like Nikola Jokic does. There's no center who has revolutionized basketball like Nikola Jokic does. There's no center who runs an offense like Nikola Jokic does. And this is one of the best offensive seasons for a big man in NBA history.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can talk about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's a fraud. Joel Embiid doesn't even belong in the
I didn't
conversation.
even bring his name up. And I like your picks because Jokic is top 10 in points, rebounds, and assists. And that's pretty huge. And I didn't really think about that. I was looking at, Luka is also top 10, except for one category, but he is also top 10 in two things. And I was just looking at it from, we usually give it to point guards and shooting guards most of the time anyway. But Jokic is really making an improvement for himself right here. Top 10 in rebounds, assists, and points as a center. I mean, I might say I could lose this argument right here. Jokic might take it all as MVP. So you guys,
wait. I mean, all the polls right now, he's up there. He's definitely the front runner in all the polls that have been taken so far. ESPN, Sports Center, everything. He is the front runner for MVP. And look, Doncic is he's young. He's got plenty of time. He's very healthy. He's improving himself constantly every single season. So I think he's definitely got some room for more improvement, and he has some time to get that MVP award. I just don't think it's going to be this season.
Yeah.
Luka will be in the conversation every year, and there's a reason he's in the conversation this year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it could be. It's a weird season where you've got LeBron James hurt. Joel Embiid is playing, I guess, his best basketball ever, but it's a small sample size, if you ask me. Yeah. Luka Doncic is, he's just a baller. You've got Giannis, you've got Dame, you've got Kawhi, you've got Steph. I mean, Steph, he's putting up numbers that are almost identical to his MVP season, but the difference is his team sucks,
Terrible.
So it's just every year, it's going to be the same 8 guys or so who you go into the season, you're like, who's it going to be? But I think this year, especially with Bron being out so long, Joel Embiid has been out for 18 games. Jokic he's not there because he's been there. He's the runaway MVP because he's been nothing but there. Because you can look at teams like, I've seen that the 76ers are only 9-9 without Joel Embiid. Well, you have no idea what the Nuggets would be without Nikola Jokic because they have their record with him because he's been there the whole time.
And now that Murray's out, I still think the Nuggets will continue to do what they've been doing with Jokic. Oh, yeah. That's their focal point right there. That is who they kind of rely on, in my opinion, the most.
If anything, it'll help his MVP case, which you never want to hear that because Jamal Murray that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it's becoming harder and harder for the big heads on the East Coast to say that Nikola Jokic is not the MVP.
Why you gotta go there? Why you gotta do that? The big heads on the East Coast.
That's what they are. They got the East Coast bias.
They're looking at
At least you didn't say the West Coast. I'm good with that because.
Well, I mean, the West Coast. I would say that if LeBron James was playing, but I don't have to because LeBron James isn't playing.
I still probably wouldn't have said that. I probably still would have stuck with Nikola Jokic in my case. But
yeah, because you have integrity. That's why.
Okay. That's it. We'll go with that.
All right. Okay. That was a lot. I just dumped on everybody, but it's how I feel. It's emotions. That's what sports are. You feel them. Next up, talk about feelings. This upcoming NCAA basketball season is already anticipated, and everybody's already excited about it. Mm-hmm. Especially our Rams. They're not losing anybody, and they have a whole nother recruiting class coming in. And according to ESPN, they're a number 21 NCAA team. And according to CBS Sports, they're a number 24 NCAA team. Is this is this fact or cap?
I think it's fact. I think CSU has proven that they can be 21, 24, in between that range of the 20s. I think they showed they're number 3rd in the Mountain West, and they made it pretty far in the NIT bracket. So I think this isn't a cap. I think, they're looking at, they played well, they played good ball, kind of small. They played small ball and still made it that far in the NIT tournament. I think they made their case to be 21, 22, 23, 24, or even 25. I think they really showed that they should be, or in that top 25.
I mean, I'm kind of in the middle on this one. It's exciting to see that they're on a like way too early prediction for that. Obviously, it's exciting. I mean, it sucks that none of us are going to be at CSU anymore when this is happening. But we've watched them this entire season. They've grown so much, and these guys, we've talked about it. We repeat this every single time we talk about CSU's basketball team. They are so young and constantly growing, and this season especially has taught them so much about themselves and their growth and how they can become a better team as a unit and not just as players by themselves, especially going into the postseason into March when they had the NIT and they had the Mountain West tournament. They saw who they really are as a team and they could build off of that. So I definitely think that this is going to be a good season for them. And I do see them in the top 25. I just feel like they're more towards the end, a little bit more towards the end. And I know 24 with CBS is already very close to the end, but I think ESPN might have been a little bit too high on that, especially seeing how the teams that came after them that weren't even a part of the top 25, especially the Huskies. I mean, UConn, I think, should definitely be a little bit higher than CSU in this case. But I mean, we always say this, you never know, especially with college basketball, you never know what could possibly happen.
Yeah, and I as much as fun as it would be to be like, oh yeah, no doubt this team is a top 25 team, which they very well have the potential to be, especially with there's one more scholarship left. If Medved can land a high profile transfer with that scholarship, that would be pretty special because you got Jalen Lake and Jalen Scott coming in next year. Jalen Lake is a top 30 shooting guard in this recruiting class. He's a special player. I mean, this team has nowhere to go but up. But you know what happened to Icarus? To get too close to the sun, you can burn and fall. So it's all about maintaining a momentum. And this is a special group. I mean, look, you go from a 12-20 season to back-to-back 20-win seasons. That's indicative of a group that can work together and continue to improve. So rationally, yes, without a doubt, this team could be a top 25 team for the whole year. I mean, look at how the Mountain West has changed. Neemias Queta is gone. Jordan Shackle is gone. Matt Mitchell is gone. Williams, the former freshman of the year from Wyoming, is gone. But CSU has kept its core. And CSU already has top 10 players in all of the Mountain West, and 5 of them have left in this offseason. You've got a new coach in New Mexico. You've got a new coach at Utah State. So consistency is key, but we've seen with the Rams, consistency can sometimes be an issue, especially in shooting. So it's all going to be about growth and really living up to potential and living up to expectations.
Yeah, and I think especially with how the season really ended for them this past season, especially like in postseason, I think the way that it all ended was heartbreaking and not at all how they wanted it to end. So I think that that's going to be another bit of motivation to kind of kick them into gear and push them through the next 2021 season.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah, because the way they ended out against Memphis, I mean, you know, it should have been a better game for them, but they're playing a good team as well in the NIT. So it shows they have heart and that they can definitely be in the top 25. Like I said, all they got to do is just bring it all together. And like you said, get that top pick or top, commit. And the way they played shows that, hey, you come here, you're going to be a part of a good team. You're not just going to come here and suck. You're going to come here and actually get, good record, a good record. You're going to play. You're going to get some buckets and even some recognition from NBA scouts. So.
Yeah, and especially with this upcoming season, there's actually going to be a non-conference schedule, which is really how you measure your potential against, if Joe Parker is able to schedule the Rams against some Power 5 teams, because Memphis was, really the first great program CSU played all year. Yeah, NC State was a Power 5, but NC State was, they're not a top tier Power 5. That Memphis team could have been a Elite 8 NCAA team.
Yeah. So
if you're able to run into those teams earlier in the season, you're able to really, really measure how good you could be in the season and where you can improve. And I think we all agree that this Rams team could be a top 25 team for the whole season.
Absolutely. They just have to prove themselves, which they can. I mean, they already proved themselves. I know it was non-conference play, like you said, but they've had the conference's best offense all season last season. So, I mean, consistency is key. And like you said, it could also be the downfall. I mean, their shooting gets off and it might just be downhill from there in their games, but I think they just need to prove themselves and they'll be good.
Yeah, keep the buckets coming and don't fall behind pretty much. That's what we saw
Right.
with Memphis. You fall behind. It's hard.
We got to keep those buckets coming. And, we've been keeping this content coming all year, and it's been really a pleasure every time we've been able to do these. I mean, technology is awesome, and we're able to stay connected and, do it down in the DMs every now and then, hopefully get one more in this year. Thank you so much for joining us, Rams. I'm Ethan Bird.
I'm Rachel Hallam.
Right, and I'm Ellison Hubbard.
Thank you for tuning in.